Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, including the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. I consider it one of Srila Prabhupada's books, actually. Gopiparanadhana Prabhu was the translator of both the verses and the commentary. First time ever of the commentary in English. Gopi was on the team that finished the Bhagavatam for Srila Prabhupada. So I think we can, and it's a BBT publication, so we rightly can say, and Prabhupada said you have to read it. So welcome back. Sorry we missed you last night. It's getting a little tense over here, this marathon. No time for doing anything, except for being in ecstasy, because the Chaitanya Charitamrita is really, really sweet. You know, the last few days we've heard Antya-lila, chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Amazing, amazing. Okay. Here we are, right back in the live studios in Hive, translates into the Haven in Anglo-Saxon. Here with SKD, Shamkishore Das Brahmachari. He's taking really good care of us in the absence of Abhay Das Brahmachari, who I heard from him the other day. He's happy, but he would like to come back, and we would like to have him back too, eventually. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatamrta Stotram, 5 verses glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam by Sanatana Goswami, the same author, of course, of Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And this Bhagavatam is the basis of Brhad Bhagavatamrta and of all of the Rasa Shastras, as I've been saying again and again. Repetition of a good thing is a good thing. It goes like this. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of all of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvatevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Madmahadana Mannistada Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy. I bow down to you. A sadhu, sadhutadayin, atini chochatakada, hanamunchagadachin mam, premnarit kantayak spura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Gopakumar is in Dwarka. Not just in Dwarka, but he's at the house of Uddhava. And Narada Muni has joined him there. And they are enlightening him about Goloka Vrindavan. He's a natural Brajabasi, but he's young and he hasn't had any formal education. And so he's getting this incredibly special education by going to all these different places in the material and in the spiritual world and getting instructed by the cream of the crop of devotees. Now Narada and Uddhava. We're starting with text 202, chapter 5. They've come to this topic of the gopis of Vrindavan, the topmost devotional service. The ladies of the capital of King Yudhishthira spoke the same way among themselves while watching that very personality of Godhead leave for his own capital. Commentary. Since the greatly learned Bhishma knew about the glories of the personality of Godhead, it is understandable that he should have spoken such praise of the gopis. More surprising, however, is that women without such specialized knowledge could glorify the gopis in the same way, as did the women of Hastinapur. As described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 110:20, absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is glorified in select poetry, the ladies on the roofs of all the houses of Hastinapur began to talk to him of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. Srila Sridhar Swami explains, the prayers of the ladies in Hastinapur attracted the attention of all the Vedas, and thus the personified Upanishads congratulated those ladies. Because the ladies belonged to the capital of Sri Yudhishthira, the core of a king, it is implied that by their connection with him, they certainly could have spoken such realizations. What is more, the women of Hastinapur expressed those realizations at a moment of painful crisis for them, when Krishna was leaving the Kaurava capital for his own city, Dwarka. Krishna's influence is so wonderful that even while Krishna was abandoning them, they could glorify their rivals in Dwarka and in Vrindavan. Text 203. O friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted. How they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe, to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. The damsels of Brajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors. Commentary. This verse appears in the song by the Hastinapur ladies in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 110:28. In the opinion of these ladies, Sri Krishna's queens in Dwarka must in previous lives have disciplined themselves and worshipped him in many ways to have gained him as their husband. For those queens can regularly taste the nectar of Krishna's lips. But the gopis of Vrindavan are even greater, because they always think about that nectar within their hearts. The nectar of Krishna's lips must be exceedingly pleasant, since the gopis, those most respectable girls, are enchanted by it. Thus it is proven once again that Krishna is the Supreme Person, and that because of the extreme love the divine gopis of Braja have for him, they are superior even to Sri Rukmini and Krishna's other wives. Surely the gopis also had the privilege of drinking the Adaramrita, the nectar from Krishna's lips. But beyond that, they would become bewildered just by remembering it. Although one can also achieve Sri-goloka by developing love in the mood of Madhya Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and other Brajavasis, it is mainly by developing love that follows in the mood of the gopis that one can attain the special perfection in which all one's ambitions are fulfilled. Sri Uddhava speaks another verse, glorifying the gopis in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 3:2-14. The damsels of Braja, after pastimes of laughter, humor, and exchanges of glances, were anguished when Krishna left them. They used to follow him with their eyes, and thus they sat down with stunned intelligence and couldn't finish their household duties. Narada, however, chose to forego reciting this verse because he wished to avoid making the pure devotees who were present remember the pain the gopis felt after Krishna left Vrindavan. Text 204. Sri Gopakumar said, after speaking thus, the great sage Narada embraced me. Immersed in waves of an ocean of love of Godhead, he trembled and wept, and his hairs stood on end. He bit his tongue, a tongue uncontrollably eager to keep speaking, and he danced wonderfully and showed many symptoms of ecstasy. Commentary. Narada wanted to hold back from elaborating any further on the many faceted glories of the gopis, because he was afraid of losing control of himself in ecstasy. As it was, he was already beginning to lose control. In fact, right in front of Gopakumar and Uddhava, he rolled on the ground, jumped about, and shouted and cried like a madman. Text 205. A moment later, he came back to more or less normal. Seeing me feeling discouraged, that best of sages spoke again, consoling me with sweet words. Commentary. Seeing Narada go mad in ecstasy made Gopakumar worry that his own goal might be difficult to achieve. Text 206. Sri Narada said, this subject should always be kept private, to be spoken only among saintly devotees, and it should especially be avoided in places where the Lord's supreme opulence is displayed. Commentary. Thus Narada asked Gopakumar never to repeat in an unsuitable place what Narada had just told him about various topics, beginning with the position of Goloka and ending with the glories of the gopis. Text 207. That is why I didn't reveal these things to you in Vaikuntha. Only here, moved by the charm of your ecstatic love for the Lord, have I spoken of them a little. Commentary. Not in Vaikuntha, but only here in Dwarka, in Uddhava's house, had it been appropriate to tell Gopakumar something about Goloka and its devotees. Text 208. On my own behalf and that of Uddhava, I testify to you that from here, that abode of the Lord is in fact most difficult to achieve. And so too is the discipline that leads to it. Commentary. By using the words yatra, indeed, here, Narada indicates at the confidential truth that one can achieve this most difficult goal by residing in Mathura, Brajabhumi, on earth. Text 209. But please hear from me this one place, one piece of advice. Not far from here lies the Lord's holy abode, known as Sri-Purushottam-Kshetra, which you visited before on earth. Commentary. The transcendental abode of Lord Jagannath on earth is also present in Vaikuntha. Text 210. There, in the company of Subhadra, Balarama, Lord Purushottama, enjoys the same sports he enacted at Govardhan and in the Vrindavan forest and on the shores of the Yamuna. Commentary. Lord Jagannath is Krishna himself. By visiting Purushottam-Kshetra in Vaikuntha, Gopakumar will be able to see the object of his worship, Lord Krishna, enjoying his favorite pastimes. Text 211. His transcendental form, the one source of all incarnations, expands all of his various pastimes. Whichever of his forms a devotee finds attractive, that form the Lord shows him. Commentary. Within Lord Jagannath, Gopakumar will be able to see all the different forms of the Supreme Lord. For Lord Jagannath shows himself as one incarnation of Vishnu or another at suitable times and places by displaying that incarnation's pastimes. Gopakumar may doubt whether all his desires can be fulfilled by Lord Jagannath, whose form differs from that of Madan Gopal. After all, Gopakumar's heart belongs only to Madan Gopal, who alone can attract him. To remove this doubt, Narada speaks the second half of this verse. Lord Jagannath will surely respond to Gopakumar's particular mood of devotion by appearing as his worshipable Lord Gopal. Text 212. Eternally as dear to Sri Krishna Dev as his beautiful Mathura Dham is that Purushottam-Kshetra. There the Lord displays his supreme opulence and yet charms his devotees by acting like an ordinary person of the world. Commentary. Gopakumar may still insist that Krishna reveals himself in full sweetness only in his favored abode, Brajabhumi. And Gopakumar may therefore not want to go anywhere else. But here Narada explains that in Purushottam-Kshetra, non-different from Braja, Krishna also manifests all his powers of Godhead and all his sweetness. Lord Jagannath, being the complete, omnipotent personality of Godhead, is confirmed in Sri Shiv Purana. The unlimited imperishable Vishnu, the primeval Supreme Person, abides there in Puri. That Lord who is very kind to his devotees bestows liberation in 7 ways. His devotees in Puri are liberated by remembering him, by eating remnants of his food, by making a pilgrimage, by repeatedly chanting his names, by living in that abode, by giving up their life heirs, or by seeing him. Sri Skanda Purana confirms the same being who created this universe with all its moving and non-moving creatures is present in Sri Kshetra in a form of wood, like the living soul of that abode. Therefore, since Krishna enjoys with the same freedom in Puri as in Brajabhumi, Gopakumar should be able to achieve in Puri everything he desires. Text 213. And if you are still not fully satisfied after going there and seeing him, then at least stay there some time as the means to achieve your desired goal. 214. Of course, your ultimate goal is pure love for the lotus feet of Krishna, the divine gopis' life and soul, love that follows in the mood of the Lord's own Brajabhumi. You seek no other goal than that. Commentary. Here, Narada defines both Gopakumar's desired goal and the correct methods or means for achieving it. The only effective means of achieving Krishna in Goloka is pure love, and the only proper objects of that love are the two lotus feet of Sri Gopinath. Text 15. But the prime cause of pure love for Sri Krishna is Krishna's full mercy, which in someone may arise spontaneously and in someone else by gradual practice of devotional service. Text 216. Just as from a generous donor one might receive food already cooked, or the means and ingredients for cooking food oneself, so according to the opinions of Scripture, one receives Krishna's mercy through a method of devotional service, a devotional practice, either regulative or spontaneous. Commentary. Though all perfection in bhakti comes only by Krishna's mercy, there is still a need for different methods of sadhana. To illustrate the point, we may consider the hungry people who should receive charity. Some should be given food already cooked and offered to the Supreme Lord. Others, like strict brahmanas, who eat only what they have cooked themselves and offered to their own deities, should be given rice, other ingredients, and pots and fuel for cooking. Similarly, most aspiring Vaishnavas need to be purified from material contamination by regulative devotional practice. Only a few souls, already pure, can enter directly into spontaneous, loving service. Text 217. Once one has overcome the obstacles on the path that arise from frailties like fear, can one then achieve pure love, in which one thinks of the Lord like a close friend in the ordinary world? For this one must have a strong desire to serve the Lord in a manner of his gopas and gopis. Commentary. When a serious devotee first sets his aim on following in the footsteps of the Golokavasis, the goal may seem far away. He may begin his endeavor still encumbered by many material desires, but the more he carefully studies the transcendental reality, the more he renounces his unsuitable desires. He then rises above the misgivings born of fear, reverence, distrust, and shame. The real beginning of spiritual life, therefore, is to become free from material desires. Until the obstacles are overcome, the devotee sees the object of his devotion only as the supreme powerful, and so remains too fearful and respectful to have any real love for him. But later, when the devotee swims in the vast ocean of bhakti, the superficial waves of contrary impulses recede, and he is granted the superintelligence for friendship with the Supreme. The devotee then approaches the Lord with such apparently worldly moods as that of a consort or a son, and serves his lotus feet accordingly. He renders pure devotional service, as defined in the Padma Purana. Ananya mamata Vishnau, mamata prema sangyuta, bhaktir it uchite bhishma, pralado tavanaradahi. When one develops an unflinching sense of ownership or possessiveness in relation to Lord Vishnu, or in other words, when one thinks Vishnu and no one else to be the only object of love, such an awakening is called bhakti by exalted persons like Bhishma, Prahlad, Uddhava, and Narada. Text 218. One develops that love by practicing the devotional service whose main ways are meditation on and singing about the many Braja pastimes of the Lord. That service becomes brilliant by Sankirtan of the Lord's most beloved holy names. Commentary. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which consists of 9 basic devotional practices, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering, prepares a devotee's heart for the awakening of prema, love of God. Dhyana and Gana, the general methods of remembering and chanting about the Supreme Lord and His pastimes, transform in the advanced stages of sadhana into preshta nama sankirtan, ecstatic absorption in the nectarian names of one's worshipable Lord. This sankirtan is the most essential means for achieving prema. By Nam Sankirtan, one easily realizes the full glories of Krishna and his pleasure potency. Text 219. In the company of people whose only taste is for devotional service and pure love, that love appears of its own accord, yet one must try hard to keep it concealed. Commentary. The quickest way to achieve prema is to stay in the company of those who know its value. The association of first-class, pure Vaishnavas has the power to invoke prema in an aspirant's heart. But when love for Krishna begins to mature, a devotee must be careful not to make a public show of his ecstasy. There is a saying, Gopayet matrijara bhat. One should keep prema hidden as one would conceal that one's mother has a paramour. A devotee actually experiencing prema would never divulge his inner ecstasies just to establish a reputation for himself among Vaishnavas. Still, as indicated here by the word swata, of its own accord, the situation of an ecstatic devotee is like that of an ordinary person separated from a loved one long enough for time to have covered the pain, yet not so long that meeting friends of his beloved won't suddenly plunge him again into agony. The word prayasyat is in the future tense, which implies that the injunction to keep prema hidden applies only before prema has fully appeared. Once fully developed, prema cannot be checked from showing itself whenever it wants. Text 220. When one resides always in seclusion in the land of the Lord's favorite pastime forests, surely such love will soon develop and mature. Commentary. Sadhana Bhakti, performed in Krishna's holy dham, is especially conducive to the awakening of prema. 221. That loving devotional service is far different from disciplines such as karma, jnana, and yoga. At every stage, it is decorated by indifference to them, and its root is dainya, utter humility. Commentary. The question here is whether prescribed duties and other methods of purification should be continued along with devotional service. Should one keep on with karma, the following of varnashram regulations, or jnana, the cultivation of discrimination between spirit and matter? What about the eightfold practice of yoga and meditation in samadhi? And what about renunciation, chanting mantras, and other disciplines? Here Narada answers that although these disciplines, starting with karma, may all assist in the sadhana of love of God, only in the very early stages of devotional practice are they of much use. Once sadhana bhakti has reached its fruit, raganuga bhakti, spontaneous devotion, and especially once prema has appeared, the fruit of raganuga bhakti, there is no longer any place in a devotee's life for those other practices. The fact is that prema is not achievable by other methods, such as karma and jnana. Devotees should therefore disregard those methods and simply busy themselves with the devotional service of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on. This point has already been discussed in detail at the end of the second chapter of this part of Brhad Bhagavatamrta in the context of the glories of bhakti. Great authorities have said, devotional service to Lord Mukunda can be seen personified as it runs away from those who perform fruitive rituals and laughs at those who chant silent mantras in their minds and avoids those who practice meditational yoga. Bhakti yoga, in all its phases of practice and achievement, in this life and the next, is always decorated with the ornament of indifference to material desires. This holds true whether bhakti is performed internally with the subtle body or externally with one's physical body and senses and the body's external possessions. When one allows secondary means and goals to become prominent, one deviates from bhakti. The most essential support and a candidate for pure bhakti must always take help from it is utter humility. Text 222. Wise men define dainya as the state in which one always thinks oneself exceptionally incapable and low, even when endowed with all excellences. Commentary. Narada's own definition of dainya distinguishes his use of the word from other possible meanings, such as poverty, becoming selfless by not accepting charity, and being free from egotism. Someone might say that the quality of thinking oneself very fallen may also be seen in persons who are simply lazy, or those who abandon auspicious work or indulge in sinful acts. Therefore, Narada specifies that one who actually has dainya is endowed with all good qualities. For instance, such a person observes positive and negative regulations, he is free of false ego, and he has a healthy fear of material life. Furthermore, although Narada doesn't say so, Transcendental dainya is a state of extreme agitation that can lead to tears and other ecstatic outbreaks. Text 223. An intelligent person should carefully cultivate speech, behavior, and thinking that fix him in utter humility. And anything that stands in the way of it, he should avoid. Text 224. Dainya, at its most exalted, comes forth when prema, pure love of God, reaches full maturity, as it did in the women of Gokula when they were separated from Krishna. Commentary. Ordinary dainya can be developed by human effort, but there is also a type of dainya beyond the mundane that comes from receiving the Supreme Lord's favor. The word tu in this verse contrasts these two distinct kinds of dainya. Almost everyone in the material world is separated from Krishna, but most people never experience dainya because they have no prema. Therefore, they can never become free from suffering and attain true happiness. To achieve transcendental dainya, one must learn to love Krishna in the mood felt by the gopis, led by Sri Radha, when Krishna left them to go to Mathura. We can understand from the example of the gopis, viraha bhava, their feelings of love and separation, that this special dainya arises only when by Sri Krishna's exceptional mercy, a devotee who has realized Krishna's sweetness develops extraordinary prema in his heart in the mood of separation. As prema appears in degrees of excellence, so does dainya. So this confirms Lord Chaitanya's recommendation, strong recommendation, that the way to achieve love of Krishna is through service in separation. The more you feel separation from Krishna while you're doing your chanting and your hearing and your serving and your cooking and your cleaning and your editing and whatever else you do, managing, the closer you come to the goal. Text 225. When dainya fully matures, prema unfolds without limit. And so we see dainya and prema acting in a relationship in which each is both cause and effect. Commentary. If prema is supposed to be the final result of all devotional endeavors, how can dainya be a consequence of prema? In answer, yes. Prema is the final goal, but dainya is not altogether different from prema. Dainya is an integral component of prema, and both foster one another. It is a misunderstanding to think that because there is always another level of perfection to achieve, one can never reach the supreme goal of life. What the progressive development of prema shows is not that there is no goal, but that in spiritual life there is endless variety. By pure love for the lotus feet of Sri Gopinath, the fruit one achieves is the attainment of Sri-Goloka. By that attainment, the direct sight of Sri Gopinath. By that direct vision, his special mercy. By that mercy, the highest ecstasies of Viraha Bhava, and so on. This endless sequence is not a fault, but simply the unfolding of spiritual variety. Even in Vaikuntha, what to speak of Goloka, the bliss of devotional service unfolds in an infinite variety that puts the happiness of liberation to shame. Dear brother, those who know the essence of prema recognize its presence when the melting of a devotee's heart gives rise to trembling and other such outward signs. Commentary. This statement settles a possible doubt over the nature of prema. Since prema develops from feelings of utter helplessness, dainya, is prema a mood of wretchedness? Or since prema is considered the greatest of all goals, is it a special mood of bliss that comes from getting free from all causes of wretchedness? According to Narada, only those who have realized prema can distinguish its real nature. The essence of prema cannot be defined in mere words. At best, it can be recognized by its secondary characteristics, tatastha, lakshana. Thus we can understand the presence of prema by its external symptoms like trembling, floods of tears, and standing erect of the bodily hair. Softening of the heart, chitardrata, also counts as an external symptom because it is knowable by the mind, even though it is also said to be internal because it is not a directly visible object. And that takes us to exactly 8 o'clock. Hare Krishna. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts in all the books that I've read, except for those parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita that talk about Rupa Goswami and Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami and so on. Just the privilege of feeling happy to hear this truth is so rare and so special that we can feel encouraged that we're here together, even hearing about it. Hare Krishna. I'd like to point out again, in deference to my dearest godbrother, Gopiparanadhana Prabhu, that this commentary that we're reading from, the Digdarshani of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta by Sanatana Goswami, is a paraphrase of that commentary by Sanatana Goswami. And it's the first time it's ever been translated into English in almost 500 years. There have been so many scholars in India. So this is a very high praise of Gopiparanadhana Prabhu directly, because it required, to do this properly, which he has done marvelously, it requires exceptional knowledge of Sanskrit, exceptional knowledge of English, and exceptional knowledge of the culture of devotional service. And the combination of those three things is so rare that this had never been done before. Not very many devotees have fixed their consciousness on this point in appreciation of, and above that, it is the greatest glorification of Prabhupada that one can do, because that a person trained by Prabhupada could do this shows how great Prabhupada is as a spiritual master. Shows his true nature as a world acharya, the actual link to our disciplic succession through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because none of his other disciples could do it. And therefore they sometimes complain about him, criticize him in many ways. Okay, I'll stop there. Hare Krishna. We'll hear something, I hope, from you all.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Krishna Premavati.
Dandavat Pranams Maharaj and all the devotees.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Gopakanya Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Gopakanya Devidasi.
Blessed to listen to Brhad Bhagavatam from you, dear Maharaj, as always. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Ram Shnehi said Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Did I miss one? Vatimanjay said Jai Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Rati.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi said Anya Bilashita Sunyam.
Hare Krishna.
Sudevidasi Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Sudevi Dasi.
Noel Kreva said Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Bhakti Noel, Hare Krishna.
Okay, now we have a question from Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna Radhe, go ahead.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. This book is indeed a most wonderful journey. Thank you for taking us through the amazing wonders of Thank you for taking us through the amazing wonders of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. What came to mind in tonight's reading is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that's all there is. What came to mind in tonight's reading is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
That's all there is to it? No,
Yeah.
she's done something else you're not finding.
Maybe still typing. Okay, there you go. Has stressed the importance of his Trinada piece in each verse, which leads us ultimately to the Danya principle.
Yes, that's true. When Vallabha Bhatta came to see Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, Vallabhacharya was a big acharya, and he became the acharya of the Rudra Sampradaya, and a very prominent figure, and his followers call him Mahaprabhu. Anyway, he had met Lord Chaitanya just on the other side of the river from Prayag, and Rupa Goswami was there also. And there Lord Chaitanya showed him favor and showed him affection, and he accepted Lord Chaitanya as Krishna. But then when he came to visit him, after that he toured and he became very powerful and very prominent, and he wrote a commentary, Sambodhini commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. But he was very proud. It states that even in that time when Lord Chaitanya met him in his house, he had him over for dinner, that he noticed that he was proud of his learning and his position, big brahmana. So when he came to Jagannath Puri, it was at a time when all of the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya had come to see him, in Puri from Bengal. Advaita Acharya was there, Lord Nityananda was there, Srivas, everyone was there. And Gadadhar Pandit was already there living in Puri. So, the first thing that Vallabhacharya said to Lord Chaitanya when he came there and got introduced to all the devotees was, I have written a commentary on the Bhagavatam and on the holy name. Could you please hear it? And Lord Chaitanya said, actually, I don't know anything about Krishna. And then he started going on it and talked and glorified every single person that he had heard from. Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Haridas Thakur. I went on and on and on. In an indirect way, he was telling him that if you want to understand the Bhagavatam, then you have to hear it from these persons. And he said, I have learned it from these persons. So then, anyway, at the end, Lord Chaitanya gave him special mercy because he was so proud. And in line of this reading that we did tonight, when you have pride in your heart and you have material desires in your heart and false ego, you cannot write commentaries on the Bhagavatam or do anything really in pure devotional service. So yes, the dainya is absolutely necessary. But the beginning of it is to do your service just with a feeling of separation from Lord Chaitanya and Radha and Krishna. Just that much is so powerful. It will take you to higher realizations and higher consciousness. Hare Krishna. And you can get there just by hearing these books attentively in the association of those who also like to hear them. This is the process. If you read these books with love and faith and without argument, which is a very important aspect of how to hear, without argument, then just by the process of hearing, you get it. Doors are open. Hare Krishna.
Santa Rupa Devi Dasi said, very moved by this evening's reading. All glories, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Ananda Murti Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Nandamurti.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today's topic was very difficult to understand for me, but I think I learned something important.
May you continue to learn more and more and more important things until you attain Krishna Prema and dainya, utter humility. So I would like to thank you all very much for your questions and your appreciations for the readings. It's very thoughtful and meaningful for me. Makes my life worth living. Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. And it just keeps getting better and better. I know that you can't believe it could get better than tonight, but it just keeps getting better and better until the end of this book. We have still two more chapters. Hare Krishna.